He was originally diagnosed in February of 2008 and went through a surgery, treatment at Duke for most of 2008, and then treatment was over, and we kind of went back to life and started really just enjoying our new normal, because it is a new normal once you go through this. But on March the 19th, 2010, it was actually my birthday. He had a routine MRI. He was totally asymptomatic, and we were told his cancer was back. And at that moment, I really knew that probably he would not survive this battle. And so when we were here last year at this time, he was still with us. He had been going through some treatment over the course of the year, but for all intents and purposes, he was doing pretty well. Actually, we left the day after Thanksgiving and headed down to Florida to go to Disney World. We were taking him to the Mickey's Christmas parade, and while we were down there, he started having headaches again. And I was really concerned that things were definitely growing and hitting him again. And we kind of went back and forth for a couple of weeks, and it was the week of Christmas that he really got sick, and we rushed back to Duke for an MRI, and they told us that he had disease progression and that we probably were looking at weeks, not months. And so January came, February came, March, April, May, and he was still here. And his quality of life was pretty good. When he wanted to go somewhere, we went. When he wanted to see something, we tried. And we really just took that time, and he wasn't on any treatment. We were just trying to keep his quality of life as best that we could, and just give him as many memories as possible. And I think we really did that the best we could.
But you were confronted with a decision to either try to do something kind of radical or aggressive, which would have probably kept him in the hospital a lot longer and be more experimental and not know how much pain, or to try to live the rest of his life and enjoy the time that you had. And what goes through your mind as a mom when you have to make that decision?
That's a really, really hard decision, because by denying radical treatment, you think on one hand, oh my gosh, I'm giving up on him and I'm just letting him go. But then I would think, but he's so full of life, and he doesn't want to be in a hospital. He doesn't want to be sick and throwing up and without his hair, and let's take this time that we have left. Unless a miracle happens, we were not going to see him grow up. And so my husband and I discussed, and we just said, we're going to keep his quality of life what it is. We're not going to put him through anything extreme, and we're going to enjoy the time we have. At the time, we thought we had weeks. What turns out is we ended up with almost a year.
That's awesome.
It's really awesome. Well, it's really hard, and I had to have a lot of really tough conversations with him, and because I love him so much, and I really wanted to be completely honest with him. And there were several occasions that, I would sit him down and say, Cameron, the chances are really great that you're not going to be healthy, and you're not going to be without headaches and sickness until you go to heaven to be with Jesus. And we would ask him if he was scared. And I guess it was a couple of months before he died, I was really convicted that I was his mommy, and I brought him into this world, and I needed to give him that release. And I sat him down, and I told him, I said, I just want you to know that I love you more than anything, and I'll love you forever, and I'll miss you for always, but you don't have to keep doing this. So I guess it was about a week after we got the scan and the news that he had disease progression. We were in the Christian bookstore here in Cary, and I was there because I was looking for, I didn't even know what I was looking for. I was looking for just any book that would help me, because I knew what was coming, and I wanted to, go ahead and prepare my heart and my soul for that. And I'm walking the aisles, picking up books, looking at the backs, And he taps me on the shoulder and says, "Can you buy this book for me?" And I look at it, and it says, "Trusting God Through Every Obstacle." It was this little green book, and I was like, "Well, okay." And he was like, "No, you need to buy this for me." He was like, totally insistent upon it, and he would not let it go. And so we bought the book. He wanted to hold it all the way home, and we get home. He wanted us to read it to him, and he was just all about this book. And so Ernest and I sat down and started reading to him. And the first chapter was about this minister who had starred in a movie called Letters to God. And it was about this little boy who had cancer, and he was dying of cancer, and he understood it more than anybody thought, and that he knew what awaited him, and that he was just this joyous soul. And, you know, the whole time, I mean, can you imagine, here's Cameron in the bed, and we're on either side, and we keep kind of looking at each other like, oh my God, we probably should have screened this before we started reading it to him. And, but we're sitting there, and we keep, you know, reading this book to him, and we got to the end of the first chapter, and we said, okay, we'll continue tomorrow. And it was later that evening that my sister, I was telling her the story, and she got on the internet. She was curious about who this little kid was that this book was written about. And as it turns out, it was about a 9-year-old little boy who lost his battle with metastatic medulloblastoma, the same exact cancer. And it was just really kind of a moment where I was like, I felt like that was God really saying, I got this under control. And I know it's going to be hard, but I orchestrated this because that could not have been coincidental. But it was really amazing that it even happened.
Why do you need, and other kids need, and other parents need their money right now? That's just what it is. I mean, it sounds like kind of cruel to say we need your money, but that's what we need.
Yeah, well, I mean, people have been saying all morning, you never think this will happen to you until it does. And that's the biggest reason. But even beyond that, I mean, I can tell you that so much has changed since 2008 when Cameron was originally diagnosed. I can remember the day like it was yesterday that his oncologist came into the room, and he said, you know, got the pathology report back. He has nodular medulloblastoma. If you have to have this type of tumor, this is the one to have. It's got about an 80 to 85% cure rate, so he will probably go through treatment and be good. And we rejoiced in that. A lot has changed since then. You know, they have discovered that pathology alone is not indicative of how patients and their tumors respond to treatment. And since that time, they've really learned a lot about these tumors and the biology of them, you know, not just looking at pathology from a whole, but really digging deep into these tumors and finding out what makes the biology of one different from the other. And in doing so, you know, since he was originally diagnosed, they know a lot about, you know, what are the bad players, what are the good players. And, you know, because obviously he passed, so he was in that 15 to 20% instead of the 80 to 85%, even though they're the same tumors. So the difference is the biology. And when you know what that difference is, what that difference in biology is, then you can better come up with treatment options to help those kids who are, you know, unfortunately have the bad player tumors.
And they all rely on donations, so that's why it's so vital that people donate and call right now.
Well, and I think too, you know, if you're an adult out there and you've gone through a battle with breast cancer and you've survived, or lung cancer and survived, and, you know, the reason that you're here today is because there has been a lot of money that has funneled into the research of your disease, and in turn caused the development of drugs. That development is so far behind in pediatrics. It's really unfortunate. And the money for research from the government is not near, for children, what it should be. And it's groups like the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation that actually raise money and fill those gaps so that, you know, these researchers do have the money to better look at these tumors and figure out ways to figure out why, you know, this happens or what is going on in this particular child. And the ripple effect of that is hopefully better drugs and cures.
LeAnn, can I just tell you, so obviously, you know, we've got to know each other a whole lot better in the past year. And we've spent more time together, and my life has forever changed from the impact that Cameron's had on me and on Lindsay. A little bit of time that he was able to spend with LeAnn. And first, I just want to say I love you. And secondly, don't ever question, you know, the impact that his young life had on everyone around him, because he was unbelievable. And thirdly, I'm still holding on to a little bit of guilt because I wasn't able to go by and see him right before it happened. And my wife and I, Lindsay, every day it was like, we have to make sure that we go make time to spend with Cameron, because it was important to us. And we hoped it was equally important to him. And I even bought Hot Wheels that I was going to take him, and I never got to take him to him. And I have him here with me, and I'm just going to give him to Bob and Erica, and one to you. But for me, it's just now it's a reminder that I waited too long to be able to give those to him. And a lot of people shouldn't put off trying to help other kids and, oh, well, I'll make a donation when it's more convenient for me to be able to do this, or I'll try to help out the foundation when I can, you know, go sit down and read more about it and try to make a donation online. I'm just going to call them right now, and I'm going to give whatever I can. And